Okay, here we are back again for another Caring Support podcast. Today, I'm really privileged to invite a couple of amazing ladies in this week that I thought personally that our audience needs to meet these two amazing women. So I wonder if, first of all, I could do a little bit of an introduction for Suzanne Schell, who's with the ROI Institute. Uh, and Suzanne, I'm going to let you give you a second to introduce yourself. And then, of course, the lovely Raelynn Douglas, who is it called Soel? How does it go?
Ray Soleil.
Ray Soleil, I'm sorry, which is management consulting. And the two of you have partnered up to come up with this really cool initiative to help in healthcare. So, Suzanne, maybe you could do a little introduction of yourself first, would be great.
Sure, and thanks, James, and nice to see you, Raelynn, today. I'm the CEO of ROI Institute Canada, which is the Canadian partner of the ROI Institute. Just very quickly, the work I've been doing over the last 8 to 10 years with ROI, return on investment, has been in healthcare. And Raelynn came into my pathway with her amazing process to affect retention in our healthcare HR crises. And we've got together to show you today what we are doing and how we're doing it. But my work in the ROI Institute covers many areas of healthcare, but this one's got my passion. So we'll talk a little bit more of how we do that together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Raelynn, maybe a little introduction about yourself, please.
Sure, yeah. The business name is Ray Soleil, just like the French word for sun. It's a play on words because my intent is to bring energy and sunshine into organizations and help build great cultures where people love to work. So I have a background in the Ministry of Finance for most of my life and then working in healthcare in Ontario. And I met Suzanne in January of 2020, that magical month before the pandemic. Took a course of hers while I was doing my MBA at Rotman. And I thought, this is absolutely the right thing for healthcare leaders. We all need to learn this skill because we need to make the best use of taxpayers' dollars. And so after we met and had some time apart in isolation, we came back together last summer to design some programs that really have an impact on the health human resource crisis. And we're really excited to be offering solutions instead of just talking about the problem.
Yeah, it's really great because I can tell you, having working with you ladies so far, I can attest to the fact that you have some great ideas, and you're looking at the things that really matter. And we're going to get into this some more. So I'm not going to absolutely steal your thunder. So you kind of answered the first question, about how you started to work together and your professional background. So why did you become interested in the healthcare crisis, and why did you think retention was an extremely important part of that?
I'll jump in first if you don't mind for this one. So I've been working as a director of contracts and service provider relations at the Central West Local Health Integration Network. And every quarter we'd have organizations come in with workforce challenges. This is way before the pandemic. Nobody could retain their staff. There was a PSW shortage. And I was really curious about this problem and how can we redefine our workplaces to have an impact on this. Went to school to do my MBA. And I had this aha moment when I realized we're losing millions of dollars on churn, this constant replacement of staff that no one is calculating. So if you look at an organization of 15,000 staff, they could be wasting $250 million every year on churn. If you got that money from the government, we'd all be celebrating and increasing wages, but yet we're losing it and no one's calculating it. So that's where we thought, we really need to focus attention on retention and not just on attraction and recruitment, which is important. But if we can teach leaders to learn these skills and make the best decisions with taxpayers' dollars, then we'd all be better off.
Exactly.
I'll turn over to Suzanne.
And then the question was asked, why did we become interested, or why did I become interested in healthcare HR crises? Well, why I became interested is just what Raelynn has said. And she's done so much work in this area, and her aha moment is a big aha in her work that she did for her MBA. But I'll push it back into the ROI place and put my return on investment hat on. Our work in ROI and healthcare has been extensive throughout healthcare organizations across Canada. Improvement initiatives, programs, etc., but they cannot deliver the value, impact, and ROI That's the work we do, is to prove that, without having the best people and professionals in place. And if we continually sit back and see them being lost and leaving, all that other work that healthcare is doing and improvement initiatives, delivering best care, it's not happening. And the reason why we call it a crisis is because of that. It's the level of healthcare delivery and is diminished without having great people. And I'll speak to caring support. They attract great people and do a great job doing it. But we need to keep those people in place to keep our healthcare processes sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what both of you had to say, because that was amazing. This is a big problem. You know, we've created this match-up job platform, as you know, done a great job of being able to streamline the process. But having said that, there's this rush to constantly replace people, and then there's no thought of the turnover. There's no thought of the retention. There's no thought of, or it's like, well, this the way it is now. It's a candidate market. That is true. But what are you doing as an organization to impact and keep people from leaving? You know, so absolutely true. So you kind of answered Suzanne, you kind of answered the third question for me, which is how does the concept of ROI fit into the crisis? And you're welcome to add anything to that if you so desire.
Yeah, I
Um,
do. I would like to add something,
yeah, of
James.
course.
It's a little quote that I received from a chief of staff in a hospital um, area in Canada, who said to me one day, "This ROI stuff is great. We really need this because we spent $500,000 on leadership development, which could be a retention strategy or part of a people strategy. But we spent that $500,000 last year and we haven't got a clue if it made a difference. We don't know
Right.
what impact it had." So the work going into the retention strategies that Raelynn can do so well, what adds to that is backing it up with an evaluation process to go to the funders or the people involved to say, here, we have credible um, data to provide you that it worked, and here's the impact it made. So it's one thing to do the training or the initiative or the intervention, but to be able to show that it actually made a difference,
Right.
Yeah.
differentiate
Yeah.
everything
And if
Lynn's doing.
I could just add in there, put a little bit more colloquially, we like to say we want to have HR leaders talk like finance and vice versa, because it's hard to measure the impact of leadership development programs, right? Sometimes it's intangible things we're talking about. How do you feel about your workplace? What's the culture like? But if we can teach HR leaders to have those skills to break down the things that are tangible and intangible, and they can convince the C-suite to invest in their people, that's when we start to see some magic happen.
And Raelynn, I'll
Mhm.
just step on your toe a little bit there. If you put a leadership development program in place to build a people strategy or retention strategy, it's not hard to evaluate that and show the value. That's why I'm with you.
Yes. And we just need to teach people the skills, right?
That's right.
Because sometimes you ask the probing questions, they say, oh, well, anecdotally we know, but how do you know? So make sure you have that framework in place, those measures set at the beginning, do your program, and then follow up. So
Right.
these are very teachable skills. And I think it's an amazing skill set for a leader to have in their organization.
Yeah, this is really great. And you guys are almost sort of like jumping ahead of my questions here. You know, like
Yeah,
this is why I work with rock stars, is because it's like you're reading each other's mind. Um,
we're too passionate and we don't stick to the script.
yeah, well, and that's okay, because you know what the thing is what's really great about this is you're bringing real value.
Mhm.
And you're making an impact in healthcare. And some places aren't ready to hear this, and some places aren't prepared to make the changes, or willing to admit that there's a problem. But, with more and more people that start to see the value in what it is you're doing and have actionable, measurable results, then, obviously the more people are going to be willing to share that with others, to say, hey, you know something? I said, you should work with these two rock stars because it's totally amazing. And, I mean, that's what I call you ladies, because you are. So let me ask you this. So how, you were kind of touching on it, but just in case it's not right there, as far as how you'd like to answer this question, because I know you've seen these questions ahead of time, but how do you help organizations meet their retention and ROI goals?
Well, very simply, we train leaders. So we go in with an organization with workshops, working one-on-one with individuals or with a team, and a lot of virtual workshops right now. But we train leaders how to retain their staff. So tangible, practical tools and techniques that they can implement right away. But we build the capability within the organization. It's not just a report that we put on the shelf and say, thanks very much, please deliver our check. We want to transfer knowledge. We want to build capability. We want to roll up our sleeves and show people how so that they can train others in their organization. This isn't just one problem that one organization is dealing with. We're dealing with this across Canada, across North America, across the world. So we all need to get busy working on solutions, and we love to help transfer that knowledge.
And I'll add to that a little bit, Raelynn, that you sort of didn't share a lot of the expertise that you bring to an organization. Raelynn coming in and training leaders and showing them the power of retention and how to increase retention is awesome. But before she does that, there's a whole background bank of work. She just doesn't land in on the doorstep and start. You've got some good background on that and know what the problems are, where their weaknesses are, what's causing people to leave en masse, so that, and I'll let you talk about that, so that leak in the boat stops. And I'll let Raelynn talk about her boat, but I'll answer your question, James, about how we help organizations with their retention and ROI goals. We want to work with organizations that want to either invest time and resources into people strategies and Raelynn's awesome retention strategies and how to get to the right answer. But we also want them to be able to say, yeah, I want to be able to say that we invest this time or money. We want to know that it worked. We want to see the impact financially, intangibles. And man, if you can reduce turnover and increase retention, you got a high ROI. So we want to work with organizations that want to do that, build that evaluation into it so that we just don't go in and do something and leave. We want to follow it up and show the results.
Yeah, and I like to use the term, we want to help them cross the finish line, because you invest in a leader, you design a workshop, you have people come, you count the number of people in the seats, they had a good lunch, they rate the instructor. Okay, did it have any impact? It was very common, that's what we do. So what we want to do is train people to ask more, right? Just design your program so that you know exactly what you're trying to achieve. You achieve it, you cross the finish line, because our resources are so scarce. We have to make the best use of them.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting is with caring support, we would launch somebody on the website, like a healthcare organization that's going to use it to help find people. And then all of a sudden they start to see some of their own employees on the platform. And you're like, right. Obviously this becomes a retention tool, but nowhere near the level of the retention you guys are talking about and why it needs to be done. And by the time these folks are willing to look on our platform for a new job, the question is not to get upset at these people, but to understand why before you're doing an exit interview. Then it's too late.
I mean, it's good data. It's good data to have for the next time. But yes, talk to your people before they leave. And we have got lots of techniques for that. So, I think now is the time to start having some of those conversations. And we help leaders figure out how to do that.
Yeah. So, okay, I would ask you if you could describe your methodology and share some of your retention strategies, because you're kind of touching on it, but I'm wondering if you could maybe drill down a little bit more on that, be a little more granular.
Well, Raelynn, do you want to talk about retention strategies, and then I can talk about how the ROI methodology can be embedded into the whole process so that an evaluation is inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, we work through workshops primarily, right? And so depending on what an organization needs, sometimes they say come in and talk for an hour. You can't get a lot done in an hour, but we've got 2-day, 3-hour, various sessions where we dive deep into the problem, share that aha moment about churn and how the best, the golden egg that you've got is retaining your staff. We talked to you, James, months ago about two sides of the coin, right? You have to attract, you need to fill those spots. But if you're losing those people, that's huge dollars going out the door. So what can we do to have leaders understand they need to have the conversations, they need to be empathetic, we need to build a culture of psychological safety and resilience. These things take time. So sometimes it would require going in and working with leaders, over a series of weeks to build those leadership capabilities. So depending on how ready organizations are to receive this information and to do something about culture, we can have an impact at lots of different levels. We have a workshop that we've done with the National Institute of Healthcare Informatics, and it was a 2-hour workshop, but they left with tangible techniques for employee retention, employee engagement surveys, how to do a stay interview, how to brainstorm local solutions with your team. Because person over in Barrie might want Tim Hortons cards, but the person in Mississauga might want to hear thank you, right? So it's very
Yeah.
individual. So
Yeah.
you have to talk to your staff. And we need leaders within organizations who say, yes, I understand, I'll be a champion for this. We need direction from the CEO down, but we need leaders across the organization helping to support that good culture. That's how you retain your staff.
Yeah. Well
Oh.
said. Suzanne?
Yes, and to just jump over the hurdle a little bit more from what Raelynn said about how we help organizations and leaders learn how to retain employees. It is through workshops that we deliver, and we deliver awesome workshops, I would say. But the biggest bullet, the silver bullet or the gold bullet that an organization can do is to say, Raelynn, I need you in an organization to help our leaders, and customize something for our group based on what we know about why people are leaving and help them that way. The workshops give tangible takeaways that people can implement, but to get if you're going to make a difference in this, you've got to fight it and go for it and not just invest a couple of hours. So that's the big push, is to get organizations to wake up and say, we got to really pay attention to this and do something significant.
Yeah.
Our methodology is, if we work with something like that, if Raelynn was going into an organization to implement some retention strategies and some training and working with them, we would build in the process in a 12-step process, from starting with, why are we doing this? What do we want out of it? What does success look like? How are we going to collect the data? How are we going to show the ROI and communicate the success story? So our methodology is laid out 12 steps that we incorporate into any program or initiative, and incorporating it into Grace Soleil's retention work with an organization is where we want to take it. So she's putting it on the line there. She's going to do it, and she's going to have an evaluation in there to prove to the organization that it did make a difference.
Yeah, and I think, just to add to that, a lot of consultants go in and they say, yeah, I can do that. And it's, $2,500 and it's 3 hours of work or whatever. And here's my bill. And we pay for it, but we don't know if we got the results. We don't know if leaders are changing their behavior or having those conversations, right? And so what we want to do is teach leaders this amazing, unique skill set where they no longer just accept that, right? That they say, okay, I'm going to purchase this mental health training, but these are the expectations I need at the end. And maybe we need to design a few more things in there. Maybe we need, role play. Maybe we need a script. I don't know. Maybe we need to practice. Maybe we need to hold people accountable, whatever the case may be, so that you actually achieve the results across the finish line. And that's where I think this is such an amazing skill set for healthcare leaders. If you want to move forward in your career, be a VP or CEO someday, there's a lot of nurses who are leaving, who are saying, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed out. HR, there's lots of opportunities for us to think differently about how we design our workplace of the future. So I'm excited. I think there's lots of opportunity to innovate and to think differently about how we lead.
Yeah. Really great, ladies. This is amazing. This is such a pertinent topic, and really more so now. So you're both really talking about this. So the question I have is then, so how does an organization measure the effectiveness of these strategies? Like, I know that you're saying that, you talk about the deliverables, that this is what you hope to seek and accomplish and results and everything. But what is the best way that organization's going to say, yeah, we can measure this and show that these actionable items are actually making an impact?
Okay, I'll take this one, Raelynn. So if an organization, let's just put an example together, they have a retention problem, it's a crisis maybe in their organization. They want to find the solution to improve retention. Let's say their retention, or let's go turnover. Their turnover rate is 25%, which is really high. Could be 30%, some of them we see. That's the problem they need to solve. They need to reduce that down to maybe 10%, but maybe not right away, but over time, down to 10%. The intervention comes into play. We ensure that we have good learning, we have good understanding, we have good application of new skills, etc. That we then start to see retention increasing, turnover coming down. That rate maybe is now, maybe in 6 months, down to 15%. Okay, there's a big fat measure. But the work that goes into that measurement to be credible is how much of that reduction in turnover was attributable to Raelynn's retention strategies that she put in place with the leaders in the organization. And we work to do that credibly so that we have a good, credible piece of that pie. If it went down 10%, how much of that 10% is us? So that's how we would put the evaluation using the ROI methodology in place. And if we see a reduction of 10%, let's convert that to a monetary value. It's a huge number. And when we talk about the cost of turnover, it's a huge number compared to the cost of the intervention, and we've got a nice ROI.
And if I can just add
a way of describing it.
Yeah.
If I can just add a little
Go
color
ahead.
commentary on that, most organizations we talk to aren't talking about retention. They're not talking about turnover rate. They're talking about culture and burnout and stress. And once we alert to them, there is a measure. It's called turnover. What is it, and how can we have an impact? Then we can start talking real dollars, because James, in your work, you probably talk to organizations and say, well, we've got 1,200 spots we need to fill. So your measure might be fill rate, time to hire, right? You might be looking at measures that quantify the effectiveness of your program, the cost associated with it, various things. But for us, once we start talking about turnover and the cost of churn, millions and millions of dollars that people aren't even thinking about. So that's where we say, okay, start to pay attention to turnover rate. And that might be the take home for everyone who's listening here. Go find out what it is. And then try to figure out a cost of replacement. Some people say it's 1.5 to 2 times salary. We have a CEO leader that spoke to us recently who said that she's going to spend $250,000 on leadership training because that's the cost of replacing one leader. So that's a leader who gets it, who understands how expensive this is, but most people haven't even turned their attention to it. So we help to focus that attention and then build a program, that has an impact on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Both what you said there. I can tell you that a couple things come to mind. Number one, I appreciate the fact that you're not going to be the consultant that comes in and provides the off-the-shelf solution that's canned, that's ready for everybody, and you apply it the same way, and please pay your bill. It's $3,000 just to show up. But instead, it's this measured approach that really takes into consideration all the things that you've got to learn about that organization, because no organization is exactly the same as the next. Notwithstanding that is the fact that you get into these things and people really don't understand and they can't quantify how much stuff costs. How do we handle this in healthcare now? We yell at the government for more money. To say that we need, to be able to hire more people and whatever. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I get it that the more money can be helpful, but very often it's the waste. Very often it's what's going on, the turnover, and because of all these different things you're talking about, that says that if we don't course correct and we don't actually have something that we can make a huge difference and impact in, then we're forever going to be running around like requesting more money, thinking that, well, that's the problem. But it might be that because it's a leaky ship, right? So
Yeah, and if I can add a cute little analogy for you in that,
yeah,
I love the way you're going with this. If you're managing your own budget at home and you're like, oh man, I really want to afford to live in Vancouver, where I'm visiting today. I just don't have the, I don't have the salary. I need to ask my boss for more money. I need to ask for an increase in my, not going to happen. Okay, well, let me look at my expenses. Holy cow, I've been paying $10,000 a month for, okay, let's start out differently. $500 a month for my cell phone. And then it's 1,000, and then it's 2,000 because my kids are using data and I'm not paying attention, but it's auto pay and I'm not looking at it. And then sometime along the way, my husband comes and says, we spent $10,000 last month on data. What?
yeah,
Okay, we need to do something about that. And that's the same kind of problem. This employee churn that we've been experiencing for decades has created an unsustainable system. You know, I could demonstrate to you how we've lost $6 billion over the last few years on employee retention or lack of retention, this churn. That's a huge amount of money. That's a COVID level pandemic crisis every year in healthcare in Ontario. So we have to stop the leak, right? That's the leaky boat that Suzanne referred to earlier. You can keep filling it with people, but if they're falling out the other side, you know, if we've got a system that's not sustainable, I think we're living that right now.
yeah, absolutely. Now, before we're running out of time, but I really love this. I think this is fantastic. This is some very, very important stuff. And the two of you teaming up together, I'm really glad that I've met you because you do bring a lot of value to the healthcare world, and you're both amazing people, which is why I call you rock stars, right? Uh, but okay, any other comments that you'd like to add before we close this off? Maybe I'll go to you, Suzanne, now. Anything else
Yeah,
that you want to add?
yeah, I'll add a little bit. Collaborating with healthcare organizations to build capability to ensure they're proving their value, impact, and ROI. And what I really mean by that is taking the cost of something and making it an investment. If you if you see something on a line item that you perceive as a cost, maybe cost of leadership development, cost of retention training, it'll get cut in a minute. But if we see it as an investment, that we see that it's actually adding value to the organization and actually saving us some money in the healthcare system, we tend to nurture it and keep it. So that's my passion. And then connecting with Raelynn, it enhanced it even more because her passion for what she's doing just dovetails with mine, and that my whole passion about helping Canadian healthcare is now dedicated to helping Raelynn show the value of retention. Uh, on retention, again, nobody's talking about it, as Raelynn says, but no organization even knows their turnover rates and all of that. And I just today have a live example that even our population in Ontario, I'll pick on Ontario because our premier did something crazy. He's refunding 2 years worth of our license fees for the sticker for your car.
Yep.
Everybody's getting a big fat check in the mail. And people that even are in healthcare are saying to me, why doesn't he keep that money and hire more nurses? Well, darn, not see, even the average person thinks hiring more is going to solve the problem. And it will. And we need that to happen. And we need caring support to continue that great work. But we got to keep them. And that's the bow that needs to be tied on that.
Yeah, before Raelynn, before you say something, I'm sorry, Suzanne, you know, for us, we go through this when we say, hey, you know what? Here, not only can you find candidates quicker with caring support, but you know, what you're experiencing and seeing, what we all experience is everyone works in silos. So the
Yes.
government is giving money back over here, but it doesn't occur to them or even think about the fact that, hey, what if we just appropriate these funds over here where it makes sense because healthcare workers could use the money. And somehow level of appreciation when it comes to the money side of things. I totally agree. Like, you know, on caring support, we brought the schools in, we brought in immigration settlement agencies, all these different things so people can find people from everywhere, all in one place immediately, bang, 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 instant communication, everything. And so people are like, once they see it, they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. This is such a great idea. And, you know, because people, we have to innovate. We have to innovate, and we have to change, and we have to get over the fear of change. Right? So anyway, Raelynn, to you, please.
Yeah, and I worked for 23 years for the Ministry of Finance, so I agree that there are silos, but little plug for my bureaucratic friends, those are tough decisions. And when they decide to make a $5,000 retention bonus for nurses, it's not done easily. It has to go through Treasury Board. There's never enough money in government to go around. So
Right.
organizations, you have it within yourselves to save the money, reinvest what you're keeping because you're not replacing staff constantly. Be able to offer these amazing workplaces where people love to work, right? You can do that without government support. So
Yeah.
I think, Suzanne mentioned her passion, my passion. I feel like everything's kind of aligned. My finance background, her ROI, our passion for the health human resource crisis, even though we're not HR leaders. I think this is a very unique opportunity for people to have an amazing impact on the healthcare workforce. And I'm really excited about the opportunities. And when you start to talk to people about being part of the solution, you see smiles on their faces, positive energy, some life brought back into their work. And I think so many people have left because they're despondent, they're burnt out, they don't see their purpose, they feel like they have been rejected by people in government and others, and patients even. So let's help leaders create amazing cultures where people love to work and attract back that amazing workforce that's left and put them in great places where they can thrive and grow a career. So
Absolutely.
that's what gets
Yeah.
me excited is the energy that
Yeah.
comes from it.
And I also just add a little snippet to that talking before we went on live, there is a fear in organizations of exposing maybe a toxic organization or bad leaders, etc. Let's get over that. Let's just find a way to make the environment in healthcare for our amazing healthcare professionals to stay and want to work and deliver great work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think how we get past this is that we don't blame. We
That's
recognize
right.
that everyone's been through this huge marathon and sprint at all levels of the organization, and everyone can change, right? You can start to be a more empathetic leader tomorrow by making eye contact, by saying thank you. And that doesn't cost any money, as I would say. Suzanne always questions me on that. But, hope can have an awful lot of a great impact on an organization. If you feel that you can be part of a solution, you will be a different kind of leader.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so ladies, we have to go. We have to stop. We could talk about this all afternoon, which would be great, because it's such a great subject and it's so important. I want to thank you very, very much for being on our Caring Support podcast. This has been really fantastic. I love your energy, ladies, both of you. You're very smart, very well spoken, and certainly are doing amazing work. So. Once this is done, we'll make sure that people can reach out to you and find you and know what the story is and engage with you. But otherwise, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, James.
Maybe we
Take
have
care.
to do another one, James.
What's that?
Thanks.
Maybe we have to do another one. Podcast 2.0.
Yeah,
And
maybe a
thank you
live
for all the
Q&A.
work. Thank you for
Maybe
all
a
the
live.
work that Caring Support is doing. You're doing a great job, and we're so pleased to be partnering with you.
We love
Thank
Caring
you.
Support. Yeah.
Thanks, ladies. Have a great
Okay.
day. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
James.